Shanti, your human worship associate for today. This is a place where we come to name and discover life's meaning, where we practice the fragile art of learning how to be human, how to live in community, how to accept the realities of our power, our powerlessness, and the truth that all things change and eventually all things end. Each person who gathers here, however they gather, enriches our shared search for a deeper, more compassionate truth. We offer a special welcome to all those gathering this morning by live stream. To our friends in the pews, please take a moment and turn toward the camera near the welcoming congregation banner to wave and offer your greeting. And those here in the sanctuary, let us now turn and greet one another while I go to greet some four-legged creatures. Let the animal parade begin. As you may have noticed, today is a special service, the blessing of the animals. We wish to remind you of a few things so that worship can be a safe and enjoyable experience for all. We're glad that our live animal friends are here today. All animals are to be contained or leashed throughout the service and remain in the Sims room. So those who need some space from animals due to allergies or preference can also be present. Guardians of... You cannot hear me? Okay. Guardians of young people should accompany their children if they want to interact with animals, as guardians of the animals should monitor their animals in these interactions. Surprised children or animals can lead to unintended consequences. Speaking of unintended consequences, there are cleaning supplies in the Sims room should there be any accidents that need attention. The animals and their humans will leave worship during the closing hymn and move to the front lawn for canine coffee hour. We will not serve the dogs any caffeine, but treats and water will be provided. Human coffee hour will be in the Sims room. We ask that this be an animal-free space. Coffee will also be available on the Bell Tower Terrace so that people with animals can get some refreshments. We encourage the humans without animals to consider socializing outside so the animal guardians can participate in human conversations. As this is an all-ages service and all-species service, we particularly welcome our younger humans in the service today with their own meows and woofs, wiggles and giggles, yeah. Every service where we are together the whole time is a special time. Thank you for, as always, looking out for one another so we can be in a safe and inclusive community. Now, let us open our hearts and minds to the spirit of worship.
I now invite Rebecca Vergnalia to come forward to light our chalice. Peter and I will dedicate the chalice lighting with these words by Maureen Kaloran. For the blessing of animal companions, we give thanks. For the beautiful ones, those whose fur is silky and whose tails are long, whose feathers are brilliant and whose voices are splendid.
For the frantic ones, the runts and the hungry who run for a food bowl or a pat as though this is life's last possible gift. For those who bark and purr and growl and mew. For all who squeak or squawk or snarl or hiss.
Blessed are the creatures who live with us and need our care, and who teach us we are not alone. Blessed are all living things from whom we learn to love. For the animals we give thanks, and we light our chalice.
Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 21 in the gray hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth.
I now invite those who are young or young at heart to come forward. And when you gather, oh, it's a wolf, goodness. You might want to sit kind of back here just so you can get a good view of the big screen. Excellent. I'm glad all the animals are here in our as stuffed animals, on our clothes, in our hearts. So this Sunday, we are telling stories about animals. All of us have animal stories, silly stories, scary stories, some sad stories. We have these stories as someone, I think it was Jeremiah, said recently, humans are animals too. And all animals have a place in the great web of life. We have these stories because we are so closely connected. I want to share a story with you today that I would call an amazing animal story. It's a story about a whale. And I heard this story on a radio program called Radiolab. I'm going to share a little bit about the radio program. I've added some photos to help illustrate what we're hearing. Some parts of the story will make you think that something scary or bad is about to happen, but like all the best stories, this one has a good ending. And before we get to this part of the story, you should know that a man named Tim was a diver, and he liked to swim in the ocean. One day, he found a whale who was so tangled in fishing nets, she could barely move. He called some other diver friends to help. Let's watch and listen.
I knew that I had to try. I'm going to swim to the whale. And as soon as I decided, okay, I'm going to swim to the whale, well, the whale decided she wasn't going to have that.
What'd you do?
She put up her pectoral fin, which is like her arm, and this pectoral fin is about 15 feet long, it's about 4 feet wide, and she just splashed down the water in front of me. You know, it's the size of an airplane wing coming down on top of you, just inches from my head. So at that point, I backed off and waited.
Waited for the whale to settle down,
She was physically exhausted.
which she did. And then they both swim back. James goes to the tail, and Tim up to the whale's head,
You know, I was there with a 6-inch dive knife,
cutting out line right near her eye.
which was the size of a grapefruit. And her eye was moving, keeping an eye on me.
Really?
Absolutely.
He would go left, her eye would go left. He'd go right, her eye would go right.
She was tracking me.
And all the while, they're just cutting as much rope as they can.
You really had to saw at it. It was very strong, very tight. Sometimes I'd cut a rope and it would be a loose rope and all of a sudden something else would tighten up. Which was the one rope that would let it all free.
This whole process took hours. But finally, James gets to the end of it. He's at the tail sawing his way through that big clump of line, and he realizes at a certain point that to cut through all that line,
I'm going to have to stab the whale to get my knife underneath the rope. It was that tight, though. I jabbed my knife into the whale's tail and pulled the rope and then cut it.
and at once the rope went.
It was a very surreal moment looking down and seeing the 20 crab traps and buoys just disappear into the abyss.
And just like that, the whale was gone.
I'm spinning around going, where'd she go? Where'd she go?
But as the water settled, they realized they'd done it. They'd freed her.
As soon as I came up, I was like, woohoo, wow, hooping it up and yelling and unbelievable.
I was screaming.
Can you imagine?
Now here's where the story takes a pretty startling turn. In fact, the whole reason we wanted to tell this story to begin with is for what happens next. So Tim and James and the other divers are in the water. They're celebrating, high-fiving. And then all of a sudden, James looks down.
Next thing I know, I have this 50-ton whale coming right at me. I'm thinking, oh my God, stop, I just saved you.
Wait, so this whale is coming at you from below, like Jaws?
Yeah, she's rising up towards me.
Oh, God.
And I was just thinking, this is going to hurt. And when she was only inches away from my chest, she stopped. And pushed me on the chest backwards. And then released me and then kind of pushed again. And then released and pushed again. And again.
Wow.
And then she swam up right next to me, picks her head up above the water so that her eye was above the water. And then came up and looked directly at me.
And for what felt like 30 seconds, he says, she just stared at him.
The pupil didn't move around. She wasn't looking for anything else. She was just looking at me. you're in the presence of something that great. Makes you feel small. It really was a very emotional feeling. You know, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it.
But then he says she went off to the next diver.
Did the same thing.
I remember distinctly, I was 18 inches away from her eye, and she just looked at me and let me touch her, and then swam off.
Then she went off to the next diver and did the same thing, and the next person and did the same thing.
One by one.
Coming up right next to him, looking at him really good, you know, inches away, eyeballing him.
She swam around to every diver.
All the guys got it.
So it was about dusk. The water was glass flat. I was sitting at the helm of the boat, just in awe. And they had to leave the whale. She didn't want to leave them.
Now there's a real question here. What exactly was that whale doing? Or saying? Was she saying anything? If you ask James or Tim or Mick or any of the other divers that were in the water that day, they'll tell you.
I felt this whale was really thanking us.
I know it sounds crazy, but I could see the look in her eye. This mammal, this 50-ton mammal was literally saying thanks. Thanks for helping me out. And, you know, I'll bring that to my grave, knowing the gratification that I felt.
So I want to ask you a question, all you a question, all you in the back a question. Raise your hand if you think the whale was saying thank you. Wow. What an amazing story, huh? Does anybody think of something else that might be happening? Any other theories? Yes? So a fishing boat was trying to catch a fish and it accidentally caught a whale. Yes. And a whale tried to leave and broke the boat. One more, yes?
I think some people were trying to catch like a bunch of fish, and then they like maybe like forgot to take out the fishing line that they put.
Yeah.
Maybe it like caught a bunch of stuff in the whale.
You make a very good point that when people try to catch fish and they leave their nets in the water, it can really hurt the whales and the other creatures.
And what happens is the whale isn't intelligent enough to avoid the fishing net, and it swims straight in and gets tangled.
So
It tries to move, and then it gets stuck even more.
So this gives us a lot to think about, but I'm glad to see we have some budding ecologists among us. This is the time when our children's chorale is going to sing. So if you're in the chorale, please stay here. If you're not in the chorale, please head back to your seats. And if you're in your seats and you are singing with the chorale, please come forward.
I have no idea what we have to do.
Some of you have heard about one of my favorite groups on Facebook, Clergy with Cats. But as someone who loves both cats and dogs, there is another Facebook group that brings me joy. We Rate Dogs. We Rate Dogs began as a hobby by someone named Matt, who simply posted photos of dogs and rated them. I have yet to see a dog on We Rate Dogs earning less than 10 out of 10. Here are a couple examples of posts. This is Petunia. She wanted to point out the minor pup date at her local park. Not saying she did it, but not saying she didn't. 13 out of 10. And here's my absolute favorite. We only rate dogs. This is clearly Jesus. Please send in dogs. It really isn't complicated. Thank you, 13 out of 10. Every internet sensation has an online gift shop with We Rate Dogs. You can buy a bumper sticker reading, "Tell your dog I said hi." There are many stories of drivers asking each other through open car windows, "What is your name?" So when I say hi to Scout, he knows it was from you. There are some great posts that include saying hi to dogs. One was about a man celebrating his 100th birthday. He loved dogs, so his family asked his local community to bring their dog by for a party. About 200 dogs came. They write, "The line of dogs stretched around the block and down the street. People brought flowers, cupcakes, drawings, and heartfelt messages for him. Many of the dogs dressed in costumes and tuxedos. Even dogs with disabilities arrived in pulling carts and cars." And there is one post that brings us to our centering time in our service, and I just may cry when I tell you about it. Like the man who celebrated his birthday with lots of dogs, another man wanted to give his dog a chance to give and receive love with his community at the very end of his life. Here is the post. This is Mello. He has terminal cancer, but he's been walking his neighborhood with his human every day since 2019, so he has a lot of friends who will miss him. His human put a letter in mailboxes around town, letting neighbors know when his last walk would be, so they could come out and say their goodbyes. They came out in full force with signs and treats and many pets for this very good boy, 14 out of 10. We dedicate this part of our service to all the animals we love who are no longer with us in body, but remain in our memories and in our hearts. In a moment, you'll be invited to light a candle at the candle table, a time to signify remembrance or concern or a personal joy. At that time, if you would like a candle brought to you, please raise your hand. During this ritual, we will display the photos of some of the animals remembered in our community today. After we kindle the light, we'll be together in a time of shared silence, out of which we will sing hymn number 15 in the gray hymnal, "The Lone Wild Bird." Let us now kindle the light. Let's go back to that story about the whale. Earlier, we talked about whether the whale felt grateful for the divers who saved her. We will never know. Even if we could connect with that same whale, how could it communicate about its feelings? We can only guess by its behavior. I have another guess about how the whale was feeling at another point in the story. When I hear the story about her rescue, I keep coming back to that moment when the diver is right by her giant eye, following him wherever he moved. This makes me wonder if the whale was afraid. The whale story teaches us that even the big and powerful can feel vulnerable, and that, like the divers in comparison, no matter how small we may be, we can change the world for the better. All animals, including humans, are part of this truth. Most animals are both hunters and the hunted, so it's easy to be a little afraid of each other. One animal may see another as friend, while another sees the same animal as lunch. This month, we're exploring the theme of heritage. We're exploring the meanings we learn from history. So today, we want to take a moment to remember a figure in history whose life story explains why we are blessing the animals today and why we are doing it now. There was a man called Francis who lived a long time ago. He was a leader in the Catholic Church, a friar who chose to live in poverty. He moved from place to place, telling people about God. But he is also remembered as someone who had a special connection with animals. One story claims that he stopped to preach to a flock of birds, and they listened with close attention. I should try that sometime. Francis rescued a rabbit from a trap and told it to be more careful next time. When the rabbit was freed, it jumped into Francis's lap and refused to leave. And Francis heard of a hungry and frightening wolf threatening the people of a village. Even though everyone thought it was too dangerous, Francis met with the wolf and asked that it take a pact to live with the villagers in peace. The wolf agreed, and the townspeople cared for the wolf until its final days. Was Francis, or Saint Francis as we call him, someone with special powers? I think it was more that when most people saw creatures as that which could get a job done, horses to ride, mules to carry things, poultry to feed the family, Saint Francis saw animals as fellow beings with feelings and needs that should be honored. The animals recognized that he was different that way, and they didn't have to be afraid. Francis reminds us that while we are different species, we are not so different as souls. And where we can, we should try to help each other, like the divers and the whale. October 4th is a day that Catholics celebrate St. Francis. We join them in honoring someone from history who taught those around him that animals with whom we are blessed to share this world deserve our respect and care. When we offer the animals in our lives a blessing later in the service, we do so in Francis's memory.
If we were all dogs, we would show whom it is and what it is we love and value by staying very close and sharing our saliva. Those of us who are human beings have many more ways we can demonstrate our love and esteem, and one such way is to share our material wealth, as we do here in the offering every Sunday. This morning, we share our gifts with Northeast Animal Shelter, whose no-kill mission is to save as many adoptable dogs and cats as they can and place them in loving forever homes. Here are the different ways you can donate. Those in the sanctuary may give cash or checks or donate electronically. Send a text to the number in your order of service or visit our website under the Giving tab. If you are visiting for the first time, either in person or online, you are our guest. In-person attendees can find a physical visitor card in the pew racks in front of you. Please complete it and put it in the collection plate. Information about how to give online and how to complete the virtual visitor card will soon be shared with live stream attendees through text on your screen. Your generously given offering will now be gratefully received. Those who wish to do so are invited to join in the unison affirmation. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love.
We've come to the time in our service where we pause to bless the animals. As always, anyone and everyone can offer a blessing, so I invite you to do your part in this ritual. First, we'd like to acknowledge all those animals who are not physically present, thanks to you who have submitted photos of your pets. If there's an animal you are blessing in your heart this morning, not featured in the slideshow, please speak aloud their name. Beauvoir. Welcome to all our friends. Those in Sims with animals, please gently place a hand on your pet. You can also place your hand on a photo or your phone with photos or a stuffed animal, or you can place a hand on your heart. Those at home will see the words of blessing on your screen. I now invite all of us to read them together. We give thanks for you, a gift from the Spirit of life. May your belly never feel empty. May you only know human hands in kindness, and may you live a long and happy life with us. We bless you as you are a blessing to this world. Those in the Sims room, please get ready to join me and Armand outdoors for Canine Coffee Hour. Those here in the sanctuary, please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 203 in the Gray Hymnal, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky, a hymn drawn from the words of St. Francis of Assisi.
Go in peace, speak the truth, give thanks each day, respect the earth and her creatures, for they are alive like you. Care for your body, it is a wondrous gift. Live simply, be of service, be guided by your faith and not your fear. Go lightly on your path. Please read together with me the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This service has ended, but our life of service continues. Please join us for refreshments and conversation, both indoors and outdoors, for the Canine Coffee Hour.